Welcome to the BXG Podcast, the podcast where pop culture and nerd culture meet.
You think it's just going to be barbecue sauce?
Because if you actually read those books, it's just gobbledygook.
I really think clothes should be mandatory.
Speaking of Star Wars,
Captain America.
trailer reaction video, the Yuletide film Spirited, starring Ryan. I just was like, starring someone. starring Ryan Reynolds, Will Ferrell, among others. The story of it's the modern take on the classic Dickens tale, in which someone who is irredeemable is visited by
Unredeemable.
Unredeemable. What did I say? Irredeemable?
You said irredeemable.
That's not a word? Is that a word? It feels like it should be a word.
It's a word.
It's like irresponsible.
Irresponsible.
Hey, Google.
It might be a word.
Well,
I'm
whatever.
Saying
It's
the word they
unredeemable.
use is unredeemable.
Unredeemable. Visited by the ghosts of Christmas past, the ghosts of Christmas present, and the ghosts of Christmas future. Fun fact about the ghosts of Christmas future in this film: voiced by Tracy Morgan.
Hell yeah.
Physically played by former Arizona Wildcat Lauren Woods.
That's right. So cool.
So random.
Lauren Woods, great post game in college. Great post game, and had a smooth J.
Yeah, he wasn't.
That was
big
a
enough.
fun. That was a fun Arizona team, though. If you're into
Is that. Salim Stoudemire on that one?
Yeah,
That
Salim Stoudemire, one of my favorite cheers.
Those
Loved it. Lefty, smooth.
Yeah, those are about as deep cuts as it gets, right there.
Lute Olson gang right there.
Yeah, Lute Olson.
Yep.
So, I think that something that we need to do a better job of is talking about a movie spoiler-free first.
Sure.
Because we have a tendency to just immediately, hey, Captain America picks up Thor's hammer at the end. What happened to the first 22 hours and 45 minutes? Yeah, who fucking cares?
Doesn't matter.
So Spirited, available on Apple Plus, Will Ferrell, Ryan Reynolds, among others. Thoughts?
So it's crazy when Ryan Reynolds just stabs Will Ferrell at the end. That's crazy. I did not see that coming. I did not see that coming at all. It's violent. I think we talked about violent holiday movies and the violence. My thoughts. So I like both of them very much. I would say the thing I like about Will Ferrell generally is like that, like dad, like funniness. I mean, even though he's been in raunchier movies time to time, there is like that kind of thing to him. He has slipped a little on like being that guy. I mean, it's definitely gone down. I mean, Step Brothers is my favorite of his movies, but Old School, Talladega Nights, all absolute classic. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Anchorman. And so to see him come back and to be silly again was fun. And it was one of those things where I really enjoy that. And there's something about Ryan Reynolds, who is widely considered like literally one of the nicest people.
Yeah.
Not just in Hollywood, but like if people see him, he's nice to people. Like he will be like, if you recognize him and you kind of like look at him, he'll be like, come over. Like he like will ask people to come over and like take a picture or something. Plays the best dickhead in the world.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. It's amazing how well he plays that. And it's because he's handsome, but he's not like, what's funny is he's handsome, but he's not like this kind of handsome that's the John Hamm handsome and Mad Men. It's just, I don't even know how to describe it. Like he's a handsome guy.
Ryan Reynolds, I feel like is almost like the runner up at Homecoming handsome.
Yes, that's
where
perfect.
He's like, the winner's always like the quarterback or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the number two guy is always a guy who's just kind of hot, but he's also kind of like a douche. And he doesn't win because he's a douche.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He gets runner up because like a lot of people are so friends with him. Like he's definitely funny. Like he's definitely I did not get this award or anything, even though like people like me until they didn't like me in high school. But because because I guess I was mean to people. I don't remember that. But what I will say is one thing that I would imagine Ryan Reynolds as a character in a movie would have done is something I did where I made fake bathroom passes that looked exactly the same as the ones the teacher made. So I could just leave as I wanted. And I could just be like, I have it, and it befuddled people. That's a dickhead move. But it's also funny. And that's how I look at it, as Ryan Reynolds is that kind of thing, but also like a good looking guy. They point that out a lot in this movie, especially with Christmas Past, looking, the one that plays is just very infatuated with him. So the things I will say, I walked away with this movie. I enjoyed it. Like, I was glad that I watched it. I had a good time. So the things I enjoyed, a little bit of a twist to it, not your conventional style, because if you do have your conventional style, that's fine. It is one of the greatest stories ever told. I truly believe that. The twist was good. I did not know it was going to be a musical.
I didn't either.
I did not. And I
wasn't ready for that.
Many of the people around me in my life know I don't like musicals if they don't progress the storyline. I've said that many times. So I've talked about other things I don't like, and I won't get in necessarily, but if you don't progress the storyline, I just don't understand the point of musicals. This did progress the storyline, I would say 60% of the time. And so that was okay with me. I thought it was also funny because I found out that Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds are actually huge musical people. Like, they love musicals. And so Ryan Reynolds, if I remember correctly, during quarantine was just bored and kind of put this whole movie together in his head at home because he just had nothing else to do. And he's like, I want to make it a musical. I want to see if I can get Will Ferrell on board. And Will Ferrell was down to do it because of his love of musicals. So the other thing I'll say is it felt like everybody was super in on this. I know that sounds like a weird thing because you're a paid actor, but everybody seemed to be like really down. And I imagine the actual like morale on set was incredible. So I thought all those things made it positive. My negatives aren't a lot. My only real negatives is it was a little long. Yes. I felt like there were some parts I will, and I probably say that people are like great things. Every movie is a little long, but it is what it is. It's different to be in a movie theater and watch a movie and then seeing it at home. There's something different about it where it's long and you can just go on your iPhone or whatever and look at stuff. So there were parts I thought could be cut out. I thought the editing could have been better. But ultimately, I walked away just honestly like enjoying it more than I thought. I think that's the other thing is expectations set probably mid, and it went above that. Not super, super high. Not my favorite Christmas movie. But I did tell Janie I wouldn't mind this being in the rotation.
Sure.
Of 25 movies you watch.
Yeah. To counter that a little bit, I can't remember a movie that I was at times so enthralled with and at other times so bored with.
Okay, sure.
And I think that is, as you said, it was long. And I'm starting to think that there should be just standard kind of preset times for certain genres. Like if you're a comedy, you do not exceed an hour and 45 minutes. If you are a Disney animated feature musical, 85 minutes. And then you get out. Yep. If you are a action like an action Marvel movie, 2 hours 10 minutes. Period.
Got it. Yep.
Okay. If it's like,
are you talking? Let me ask you before
baseline
credits. No, credits.
Not including credits.
Not including credits. Okay.
Yeah. Your like political thriller or like movies that are just real acty, 2.5. I don't think that there's a reason, James Cameron, why a movie should ever be longer than 3 hours. Ever.
The only reason is if you need a 30 minutes to just show what all the characters doing afterwards.
Peter Jackson.
Lord of the Rings style. Obviously, I don't like that, but yeah.
I just feel like, to me, it comes down to respecting the viewer's time. And I think that certain things do a very good job of that and certain things do not. And unfortunately, I think that this was one of the things that was probably not necessary. And I honestly think the thing that you could probably have cut, because I don't think that it was really additive to the story at all, was Will Ferrell's character's romance angle. I just don't think that I don't think that it was additive in any way, shape, or form. And I think that if you just cut that out, then this movie is where it needs to be in terms of length.
And I will say, I think they could have left in there because they needed him to be they needed a reason to bring him back to being a person.
Sure.
And so what I'll say is, I think it just shouldn't have been as long. Like, I think you just make it like he's interested. That's cool.
Yeah.
Take your chances. Because honestly, I know this sounds, but in real life, if you're interested in someone, that procedure was way longer than in like normal life. Like, it was a lot of like, I'm just looking at her and I have this weird thing where she can see me now. Sorry for the spoilers now. But like,
yeah, we'll get into spoilers. Spoilers.
Right. And we're in the spoilers now. But it was that thing where it was just like, okay. And that just took that. And that was the thing I was talking about where like it was a little long.
Yeah.
I think that's fine to make it part of the storyline. But I just think it didn't need to be that much of the storyline because you're taking away from the things that were funny. Because none of that was funny.
Well, I think, let me counterpoint that a little bit. And then again, this is a big spoiler because this spoils the big twist of the movie. So if you don't want that, skip forward, to the next segment, I guess. But I think that like you said, a reason to bring him back as a human, I think that it's just the fact that he's Scrooge and he asked the question of, how long did you get after you were redeemed? Yeah. And he's like, 3.5 weeks. Just allowing him to come back and experience the humanity that he lost out on would have been enough of a reason. And I think that wouldn't have been something that they didn't need to add a whole lot to make that arc work. And then I think taking out the romance piece is kind of what cuts this down to a more reasonable time, because it was 2 hours? A shade over
2 hours and 10 minutes, I think 2 hours 10 with everything, but it's so like credits. 2
yeah
so about 2 hours.
I just it did kind of by the end it overstayed its welcome to the point where I almost missed like the climax of the third act, and I was just like, oh shit, that happened, huh?
That was a thing.
Yeah, but it was very funny throughout. I do think it also took a little bit too long to get going.
It had a little.
I think that they could have.
It was a train.
I think they should have gotten into, okay, we are now actively haunting him. I think it took 25-30 minutes, and it should have been. I think you got to get that within 15-20 minutes.
I haven't done my full on research on this, unfortunately, but I think when movies go to like Apple, like Prestige, because Netflix is not Prestige, right? Netflix is like the layman, and I don't mean this in a mean way. Like, I actually like a lot of the Netflix things, even if they're corny and things like that. Because there's like, I really enjoyed the Lindsay Lohan movie. Like, I thought that was just like it's a perfect kind of like thing to fill the gap. It's not that long, but I think with sometimes when you get into Prestige networks, where it's Apple, and Apple is Prestige or Prime or things like that, where it's like,
I don't know about Prime.
Prime considers itself Prestige, though.
I don't know. I do.
What I'm saying is that they do. It's whether Netflix doesn't consider it. I think Netflix is kind of like, we're kind of like your like lost brother. They're just like, whatever happens, that's cool. Yeah, as long as he comes back home safe, sort of safe, that's what Netflix does. People consider itself Prestige television. So I think a lot of times, or whatever, Prestige productions. And so I think a lot of times with things like this, they have to make it longer in a sense of like, we want to be like cool. I don't even know what it means. Like, because we're going to talk about something later on where it was not long. It was very short and it worked. and it worked. As far as I'm concerned,
Ish.
It worked ish. But isn't working ish if you're shorter better than working okay but long? Like that's kind of like the thing we'll probably get into.
I don't know. You tell me, Tiny.
Good afternoon. And so, but what I will say is, I thought introducing good afternoon as an insult, an offensive thing is, and I will say this, excuse my French, fucking awesome. Because I can't wait to tell people this.
And they'll have no idea.
And they have no idea.
They may
if they've seen this, but like they won't think about it. The thing is, they won't think about it though.
Right.
If you're just like good afternoon to someone that you hate, they're not going to actively think about it. But I never say good afternoon to anyone. Right. I said good morning to someone at 8:00 at night last week because I'm so used to saying good morning to people, because at school you say good morning to like 100 people a day. And so I'm so used to saying those words that if I say good afternoon, they don't know that I'm not used to saying that, but I'm actively going to be thinking that from now on, because I thought that was
really
thought it was great. Yeah. It made me laugh so hard. I paused the movie to laugh because I was laughing so hard. I was like, I can't hear the dialogue because I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was the best. There were a lot of like cultural things. That's the best thing to do culturally, is that.
Yeah. I thought that one tether that they certainly started down, and I thought that it was maybe an incomplete thought, was the fact that hate sells. Yeah. And that was what, he's made Ryan Reynolds' characters made his fortune off of basically selling hate and negativity. And I really felt like that was a direction that they were going to go with in terms of how he finds himself being redeemed. I think that they went for something that's a little bit more shock value. I don't necessarily know if one would have worked better than the other, but I thought that was kind of a loose thread to an extent. But the Good Afternoon song, if you actually like listen to the lyrics, was really funny.
It's very funny. That's what actually stopped and paused. That's where I paused.
I think that was honestly, that was probably the best. That was the best stretch of the movie, I would say.
Yep. Oh yeah. 100% agree.
So, Spirited, what would you give it?
I bounce back and forth. I'm going to go higher. I'm going to go a little higher than I think it maybe deserves, because I do think it has a rewatchable quality to it. Because there's a thing now that I will say is, after you've watched the movie full, you can just fast forward through stuff you don't like.
Yeah.
And if you want to, I don't do that, but if you so choose, I'm going to give this a 7. I'm going to give this a 7 because I think it is rewatchable. It's also, I think, a great background movie. Because there's music playing. And when you have the musical, you have the background. So if you're making dinner and you want to watch a holiday movie, but you don't want to like focus in on it. Like, I think Christmas Vacation is a movie you have to sit on your couch and just take in, because it's so funny. It's so well done. It just, you don't want to miss stuff. You may have seen it 100 times like I have, or probably you have.
Yeah.
And you don't want to miss, and you do not want to miss anything.
Right.
This is a movie you can miss some stuff.
Yeah.
And come back to and still get your laugh. And I think so. I'm going to give it a 7.
I think that I'm also at a 7, because I think that it does have rewatchability. I would probably add this to the yearly Christmas rotation. I do think, like I said, where it loses points for me is I think that there's kind of some incomplete thoughts in the story, and that it's just too long. But aside from that, it's a quality movie, definitely.
Yeah, sure. 100%.